Hello YouTube, welcome back to my channel, and in this video I'll be discussing the battery life on my brand new Sony Xperia 5. Those of you who follow me, you must have seen the unboxing, which was a very successful and hit video. As of now, it has reached 150k views already, guys, because thanks to you, the way you shared the video all across the platforms, all social media platforms. And if I can please request you to make sure you also share this video the same way, so that more and more people can find about the Sony Xperia 5 and see how good the battery life on this phone is. I'm very impressed. And by the way, in short, if you don't want to see the video, this phone has got a very good battery life. Despite being a very small size of 3140 milliamp, the phone has performed exceptionally well in this area. Okay, so let's get into more details now. In my typical fashion, as you know, guys, I take screenshots on Wi-Fi, 4G, standby, and various other aspects of the phone to show you how the phone performed. So now let's quickly get into it and open the phone up. And before we do that, let's quickly go through the very basic specs. The phone has got a 6.2-inch OLED Full HD Plus screen along with Snapdragon 855 and 6 gigs of RAM. The phone has got a rather smaller battery of 3140 milliamp, like I said, and despite that, the phone has performed fairly well. So let's get into my gallery and get into screenshots and see what I've been collecting for the past few weeks. So as soon as I opened the phone up, straight away there was an update. As you can see, it's 55.0.8.7.115, almost 70 meg in size. So that's the very first update I received as soon as I switched the phone on. Okay, once I installed the update, then I started taking all the screenshots. The first screenshot I took, as you can see, the battery was down to 29%, and after using it for a while, using YouTubing, making lots of voice calls, the phone also did spend a lot of time on idle because I was obviously busy, and I was able to achieve a total of 4 hours and 51 minutes of screen on time, as you guys can see here. So this was the very first usage, and this was, by the way, without Android 10. Those of you not aware, Xperia 5 has received the Android 10 update here in the UK. I'm not too sure about other regions, but I think most of the regions have received the Android 10 on the Sony Xperia 5 already. Okay, here I took another screenshot, battery down to 11%. With the normal regular use, as you can see, 19 minutes of YouTubing, lots of camera usage here, by the way, nearly 3/4 of an hour of Instagram, bits and bobs, and I was able to achieve a total of 3 hours and 37 minutes of screen on time, which is pretty average. Why? Because I was using the camera for a lot of video recording and Instagramming, and it was the first few cycles. Well, it takes a while for any battery phone to settle down. Here I received yet another update. As you can see, the update was major. It was nearly close to 700 meg in size, and this was the update which I received, 55.1.8.0.748. and this was, by the way, the Android 10 update here in the UK, which I just spoke to you about a little while ago. Once I had the update installed, it was on 17th of December 2019, and it was eventually, like I said, Android 10 update, the main update for the flagship phone Sony Xperia 5. Now, all the screenshots taken after this update were based on Android 10, meaning the battery life was tested mostly on Android 10. And once it was received, as you can see, it had the 1st of November 2019 patch along with Android version 10 and all the bits and bobs. So here I took the standby time on the Xperia 5 just past midnight on Friday at 20th of December. The battery was down to 64%, and when I checked it the next morning at 10 past 9, the battery had gone down to 61%, so only lost at 3% overnight, which is fantastic. As most of us know, that Sony Xperia phones tend to have a very good standby time because of the Sony's well-tuned stamina mode, which helps a lot in getting the phone some very good, fantastic standby times. Okay, here the battery was down to 4%. Lots of social media use, 1 hour and 41 minutes of WhatsApping, almost 3/4 of an hour of Instagramming and YouTubing, camera use as well, bits and bobs, and eventually I was able to achieve a total of 5 hours and 10 minutes of screen on time, which was not bad. Like I said, it takes time for any update, any phone to settle down. The first few days are always a bit of a hit and miss. Okay, Then next up, again I tested the standby time. Lots of YouTubers tend to miss the standby figures, but I am very obsessed with these timings because lots of you have asked me this over the years, when people tend to sleep at night time and when they check their phone in the morning, at times the battery drain is quite a lot. So a lot of people actually out there are interested in standby time. As you can see, the battery was at 92% on 21st of December, Saturday, just before 2 o'clock in the morning. And when I checked it at just before midday, 11:25, you can see it was down to only 90%. So it only lost 2% overnight in almost 10 hours, which was fantastic. Not too bad. Okay, once again, another screenshot, battery down to 4%. And here, YouTubing for 23 minutes, WhatsApping for nearly 3/4 of an hour, tweeting, Facebooking, hour and a half of Instagramming, lots of Instagramming, chroming, browsing, and updating all the apps and stuff. And I was able to achieve a total of 6 hours and 23 minutes of screen on time, which was not bad at all. And that's after 1 day and 20 hours of use. The phone can easily last you a working day, even if you're aggressive. But if you're using it aggressive / moderate, you can easily use the phone for over a day, which is not bad. Like I said, for a battery which is only 3140 milliamp in size. But the key factor here is Snapdragon 855, and secondly the 6.2-inch Full HD plus screen, not Quad HD. That's where Samsung phones tend to lose a lot. Often on the S10, S9 you can see the battery drains very quickly, and recently with the S10 I'm not happy, even though we had the Android 10 update on the S10, but still the battery doesn't sound as promising. Once I'm finished with this video, guys, I will also be releasing the S10 Android 10 battery life video in the next few days, so please do stay tuned for that. So here, as you can see, we only lost 3% overnight. Again, a very good result. Okay, here a battery down to 6%. Again, lots of heavy usage, lots of YouTubing, chroming, WhatsApping, social media, Prime Video for 3/4 of an hour. I was watching Lucifer on this, by the way, and eventually I was able to achieve once again 6 hours and 8 minutes of screen on time. Now, as you can see, as the phone was settling down with its new Android 10 update, it was getting better and better, and I was getting over 6 hours quite regularly once the Android 10 update was able to settle down, which is fantastic result, by the way. Mostly I tend to keep the screen brightness around 60 to 70%. However, for this phone I was keeping it around 80 to 85%, and reason being the phone's screen doesn't get as bright. You only start to enjoy the OLED brightness once you make it past the 80 to 90% mark. So mostly I was using the battery brightness around 80 to 85 to 90%, and despite keeping the brightness so high, still the phone was giving some very good screen on time. Okay, further down, battery down to 9%. Once again, another screenshot, and this time I got even more screen on time. 6 hours and 40 minutes from a tiny battery. Once again, we got to give credit to Sony for putting in excellent stamina optimizations, along with obviously Snapdragon 855, and at the same time keeping and sticking to Full HD Plus and not Quad HD or Quad HD Plus. I personally believe on a phone of this screen size, even slightly bigger, there is no need for a Quad HD screen. Next up, this screenshot, guys, you can see it says here battery care mode. So every time you plug in the Sony phone at night time, it tends to trigger the battery care mode, meaning it will really slow down your charging, and Sony tends to believe that it will be good for the battery's longevity in the years to come, which they're not completely wrong though. However, even if you do switch it to regular charging, I still believe you can easily get 2 to 3 years out of your phone. But still, an average person tends to change their phone in 2 to 3 years time, so I believe even if you switch it to regular charging, a Sony Xperia 5 will easily last you for 2 or even more years, depending on how you use the phone. Okay, here, guys, my unboxing video. As you can see, it was a great hit in the first few weeks. In fact, in the first just week and a half, it had gathered 56k views, and as we speak, my video has got 150k views on the Sony Xperia unboxing, and most of it is down to you guys because you've been sharing my video on your social media platforms. Please continue to do so, guys, because that helps a lot, and I'm sure those people out there who are not aware of how good the Sony Xperia 5 is, it will help them make better decisions if anybody is wishing to buy Sony's flagship phone. It increases their repo, and if the phone is good, the battery life is good, the performance is good, the phone deserves all the credit it can get. Next screenshot here, guys, once again down to 8%, and with the regular usage, bits and bobs, quite a lot of heavy social media, I was able to achieve here 7 hours and 22 minutes of screen on time. This was the highest I could get on this phone. I must admit, a lot of that was used at night time, so I had to bring the brightness down. As you guys know, I don't like too much brightness at night time because it tends to damage your eyes, so that's why I was able to achieve a bit more screen on time. But then again, it's amazing how much I can get out of such a small battery on this flagship phone with the flagship processor. Okay, here 9% once again, social media, bits and bobs, and eventually 6 hours and 34 minutes of screen on time. Once again, like I said, I was quite regularly getting over 6 hours on this phone, which was very encouraging, fantastic. And you could see the Sony stamina mode, Sony's software optimizations along with Snapdragon 855 was really playing dividends, obviously along with the full HD OLED screen. Here again, once again down to 8%, and I was able to achieve 5 hours and 14 minutes of screen on time. Now I remember, I think here it was a bit of 4G as well, and I did make a lot of phone calls that might have made a difference, but this was a rare occasion that I was getting over 5 hours. Mostly it was past 6 hours mark. Once again down to 9% regular usage, and I was able to achieve 6 hours and 10 minutes of screen on time. And like I said earlier, I was getting quite frequently over 6 hours without any fuss. Here again, standby time 25% on 21st of Jan, just past midnight, and when I checked in the morning 11:24, it had only gone down to 22%, showing that the stamina mode even at lower battery was working fantastically fine with no issues whatsoever. Again 8%, and I was able to achieve 5 hours and 24. Once again on this occasion, I think it was the voice calls. Yes, it was the voice calls. I had the speakerphone on. If you got to have the speakerphone on WhatsApp or on voice calls, it will obviously tend to eat a bit more battery, but still, despite having the phone big time, still I was able to achieve almost 5.5 hours of screen on time. Here I tested the standard 18-watt charger that came inside with the phone. As you can see here, the battery was down to 8% when I started charging it at 12:56, and then I checked at 14:01 after almost 2 hours, and the battery had gone on to 80%. Now this is 18-watt fast charging, but it wasn't as fast because the way this works is for the first half an hour you get up to 50%, and then the charging tends to slow down, and that's down to Sony because that's the way they want things to do. However, I believe if you have a stronger charger, this will charge even more quicker, but this charging is no match for OnePlus's dash charging and warp charging. However, on average, it was taking about 2.5 hours to get from 8% to about 100%, so not too bad. If you want a quick boost, like I said, in half an hour, you can get up to 50%. Okay, here I was actually taking a screenshot whilst I was gaming. A lot of people tend to request about the battery drain whilst you are gaming on the phone. So as you can see, it was 17:09 when I started gaming. I was playing Asphalt 5. The battery was down to 86%, as you can see. And then when I took another screenshot at 17:34, after almost half an hour, the battery had gone down to 74%. So it was quite a lot of drain. And then at 17:44, as you can see here, guys, the battery was down to 69%. So this will give you an idea of how much the phone was draining the battery when it came to gaming. So not looking that bad, not the best, but I would say just around the average mark. So back to screenshots again, once again 8%, lots of WhatsApping. You can see 2 hours of WhatsApping, and I was able to achieve, despite gaming as well, for 36 minutes. As you can see, Asphalt 9, I was able to achieve a total of 5 hours and 55 minutes of screen on time, almost 6 hours. Like I said, reaching 6 hours in this phone is not a problem. With 4G probably around to 5.5 to 5 hours mark, but with Wi-Fi you can easily get over 6 hours of screen on time. So guys, that's pretty much it from me on the Sony Xperia 5 from my end. If you're looking for a good battery life on this phone, yes, it's a big tick, performance wise big tick. Overall, I'm quite happy with the phone. There are a few small quibbles which I will speak to you later on my social media, guys. Links are down below. On Android Auto, when I'm using it in my car, at times I get some funny small little bugs here and there. The fingerprint sensor has been okay, hasn't been that bad. Occasionally it will flaw, but mostly it is fine. If you like my video, please give it a thumbs up. Any questions, please feel free to ask me in the comment section. And like always, please subscribe as it helps, and I shall see you in the next video.